Welcome to this wonderful lesson. This is a powerful lesson that is going to advance your Python skills. As you go through it, you will see the capabilities of Python. You will see what Python can do and the incredible feature of Python to be able to scrape the web for data. Web crawlers are able to go to the web and crawl websites during searches. And so when when a search engine is built, it uses web crawlers to be able to crawl the web to fetch data from websites and to list websites in search results. All right. So what Google did years ago, that Google was able to build this wonderful system that we all use. With this particular skill, if you advance it, you should be able to build something like this, because this web scraping lesson will allow you to scrape the web for data, will allow you to pull data from the web, and you can do a whole lot with it as you advance this particular skill. If you have the foundational skills of Python is good, and then as you follow this particular lesson really well, you should be able to understand everything that we will discuss. And before we do that, as usual, I'm going to give you a short message here. And this message says that life begins at the end of your comfort zone. Life begins at the end of your comfort zone. I've seen people who have made it. I've seen people who are successful, especially self-made. And I have seen something about them that they go beyond their comfort zone. I have seen very, very skilled people, highly skilled people, highly talented people. And one thing I've noticed about them is that they go beyond their comfort zone. You see, if you want to be successful in acquiring skills and be getting to the top of your career and everything, you need to go beyond the comfort zone. It is said that when everyone was sleeping, Usain Bolt was training at dawn, at midnight, going through rigorous training. And so the results that he displayed was not coincidental. It is just appearing on the world stage for you to see it, but then he does it when no one is there. He goes through something when everyone is resting. For you to succeed in acquiring skills, you need to have some kind of determination. You need to have some kind of perseverance and some kind of passion to get to be advanced. To be advanced. Don't let your current level be okay with you. Whatever you know, the skills you have acquired in the past, don't let it be okay with you. Look at those who have gone ahead of you. Look at the advanced skills. Some of you have explored a whole lot. Some of you have learned a whole lot. Don't let that be your comfort zone. Don't be satisfied. Always push ahead. Always look beyond your current level. Always look beyond. And you need to keep pushing and stretch yourself. And some of the simple things that everyone is required to achieve. For example, the root phase that you're supposed to complete. Those who will complete it, at least those who will lead the completion, you will go through with some determination. It will require some determination to go through it and to let it go through you. That means you are going to go through the lessons and you are going to come out with the skills. These are lessons that will give you skills. These are lessons that will give you skills. So go through it. That is why I am so proud of those who have made it. Okay? Like Bernadine, her success is a testament of what she was doing when everyone was resting. Olajide has also completed. I'm told Emanuela has also completed. Louise is also completing. Yampandi has even taken her practice test already. She's ready for booking, if not booked already. And Caleb has completed long time. And these people, it is a testament to your determination. And I want you to have that same attitude as you progress into the future, because you will need it. You don't become a tech expert without paying a price, without having some discipline, without having some determination. So go beyond your comfort zone, because that is where the success is. That is where life is. So this is me, and this year will be my 20th year in the tech industry. Let's put our hands together for me, and 10 years in teaching. Let's put our hands together for me. This year, 2025. And so this year, we are going to achieve a whole lot quicker. All right. So welcome to another wonderful lesson. This is called web scraping with Python. It's a very simple lesson, but as you master this lesson, you'll be able to do incredible things. Extracting and analyzing data from websites. Extracting and analyzing data from websites. All right. So to begin, the first question here is, what is web scraping? What is web scraping? And I'm going to give the definition in very, very simple terms. So when we say web scraping, what we mean is that web scraping is the process of extracting data from websites. So when you hear web scraping, that's what it means. We are going to scrape the web for data, extracting data from websites. And we are going to use Python to do that. Python allows you to do a whole lot. Python allows you to do automation. Python allows you to do so many things because of the libraries that Python provides. So this is what we are going to explore. Now, web scraping is widely used for data collection, for data analysis, for market research, and more. And it's an incredible skill that will allow you to use your Python skills at a whole new level. And this is an important skill for you to have, because you are going to use it later on. All right. Now, to scrape the web, you need to have, at least for the start, you need to have a target website to scrape. And you can scrape any website. There are some websites that they don't want you to scrape their data, but then with the right skills, you have the ability to scrape any website. For some websites, they will put in their terms and conditions that do not scrape our data, but then you have the ability to scrape any website. And for Python learners and anyone learning web scraping, there are some websites actually built for the purpose of web scraping. So this particular website you are looking at is called Books to Scrape, and it is a website that was created just for scraping. It wasn't created for you to learn. I mean, it's not a real e-commerce website or anything. It was just created for scraping. And so it is called Books to Scrape. And the domain name is books.toscrape.com. So if you can hear me, please type that in the chat for me. Books.toscrape.com. Books.toscrape.com. books.script.com. So someone should put that in the chat for me. And it's so wonderful what this particular website is saying. Look at what they are saying. They say that we love being script. We love being script. It was created for scripting. So he says we love being script. And thank you all for sharing the website. And I want you to actually visit it. And if you type it wrongly, I think Atongole, your link is not correct. If you type it the wrong way, it's not going to work. So open it, and if you're able to access this website, let me know, because we'll be using this website for scripting. Today's lesson, we will explore it to some extent, and we will have another lesson that will take it to another level and do some advanced scripting. So if you have been able to access the website, let me know in the chat. And so open to another tab on your computer and access this books.toscript.com websites. All right, so Nyampandi, thank you so much. And who else has been able to see it? Lucretia, Emmanuel, Okello, Timothy, wonderful. Timothy, great to see you. All right, so let's continue. And the prerequisite for this particular lesson or this particular skill. Okay, so I'm getting some feedback. Let me see. Okay. Number one, you need to have Python installed on your computer to be able to do scripting. And I am sure all of you have Python. I don't know who doesn't have Python on their computer. All of you have Python. Then number two, you need to be familiar with the basic Python concepts, such as variables, lists, dictionaries, loops, and libraries. Okay, so these are basic Python skills that you need to have. And most of you understand everything here. And some of you are yet to cover lists, loops, and dictionaries, but you will. And as you follow the lesson, you should be able to understand it. And next time, we'll take it to the next level where we explore it even further. All right. And to master web scraping, it will be great if you, and actually required, it's a prerequisite, if you have a basic understanding of HTML. You see why some things are important. So you need to have HTML. So as part of your training, you will introduce to HTML as well, because in HTML, we have HTML elements that we use to structure web pages. And if you want to use CSS, CSS allows you to target HTML elements and style them. All right. So if you know HTML, CSS becomes easy. When you write your CSS, you target HTML elements and you style them. CSS is so easy. Okay. And the way you use CSS to target HTML elements, when it comes to web scraping, sometimes you need to target certain elements in the HTML code to be able to extract specific data, because a web page or a website has a lot of data. And when you are doing web scraping, you may have a goal in mind to target some specific information on the website, not everything. And so you need to have some understanding of HTML and some Python libraries to be able to target the specific HTML elements we are talking about. Who can mention any HTML elements in the chat? Any HTML elements? What I mean by HTML elements are the tags, HTML tags. Who can mention any HTML elements? I'm not talking about Python now. I'm talking about HTML. You cannot move to specialization without understanding HTML. It's like some things are so basic and so important that you just need them. So Kello got it right. We have the P element. We have the H1 from Nyampandi. Yes. Title, head, Ruben, thank you. So you need to understand HTML, and HTML is so wonderful. And as you study CSS, it's so easy. It's so easy. It's so easy. You can learn CSS in one day. You just need to know how to target or select an HTML element and apply the style in the syntax of CSS. And so if you understand HTML, you can use CSS to target each element. So div is an element, body is an element. Thank you all. All right. So now let's talk about setting up your environment for web scraping specifically. In web scraping, there are two fundamental Python libraries that we use. As you study Python, you understand that the reason why Python is so powerful is because of the libraries that Python has. And these particular libraries allows you to expand the capabilities of Python. The reason why data analysts use Python is because we have libraries for data analysis. The reason why you can use Python in networking is because we have libraries for networking. And in your Python fundamentals course, you study about libraries. Thank you, Jael. So today I'm talking about two powerful libraries that you need to install for web scraping. The first library is a library you already learned about in your API lesson. And if not taking the API lesson, you will hear about this library again. It is called requests. So please type requests in the chat for me. Request with an S. Requests. Please type it in the chat for me. Requests with an S. So this is a library that you need to install on your system. You need to install. How do you install it? Number one, make sure you have Python installed on your computer. If you don't have Python installed on your computer, you can't install it. So the first question is, do you have Python installed? If yes, then it is easy to install requests. All you have to do is to open to your command prompt or your terminal and type what you see at the bottom, pip install request. That's all. Hit enter and it will install request for you. If your pip or your Python is outdated, it may ask you to update your Python and it will ask you to update your pip and it will give you the command to update your pip. You type exactly that command to update your pip and you can install request. I want someone to put in the chat the command to install requests. It is pip space install space request. Let me see one person put it in the chat for me. And if you don't have request, install it because this is what we are going to be using. This is what we are going to be using. So let me try on my system to see if I can install requests here so that we all see the installation, how it is done, because this is what we need for this particular lesson. So this is your terminal. And if you want to be sure that you have Python, you can type Python -- version. And if you see this, it means you have Python on your computer. So you type pip install request with an S. Enter, and it will do the installation for you. It is as simple as this. If you see this, I don't know if you can see my screen. What have I highlighted? If you can see my screen, please tell me what I just highlighted. If you can see my screen, please tell me what I just highlighted. Who can see this? If you can see my screen. All right, so you can see my screen. So what does this mean? If you see this, what does this mean? Requirements already satisfied. If you see it, what does it mean? Anybody who understands it? What does it mean? Okay. All right, so it means it is already installed. So if you have already installed it, then you are going to see requirements already installed. So someone said, say, I'm trying to install request, but I'm seeing something like this. This one is saying that a new release of pip is available, 2.4, 24.2. This is the old version, and we have 24.3.1. So to update it, run this command. So you can just type the same command, python.exe -m pip install flag upgrade pip. So type this and then run, and this will upgrade your pip. You can see that it's downloading and it has installed pip successfully. All right, so let me clear my screen. All right, then I go back to my slides. Now, this particular library is a library that is used to send HTTP requests and to retrieve HTML content from a web server. I like this library so much. It's so powerful. What we use it for is to be able to talk to a server, send or make a request to a server, and it will respond with HTML content. Wow. I'm going to ask one question, and if you can answer me, I'm going to be surprised. It means you really remember. Who created the World Wide Web? Don't check on ChatGPT. Don't check on Google. Who created the World Wide Web? I'm sure one person will remember because we talked about it in the Webmaster class. Who invented the World Wide Web? Who invented the World Wide Web? Anybody who remembers? I'm sure one person will remember at least. But if you remember, I'm going to be surprised. And if you don't, I'm going to be shocked. So it's between being surprised and being shocked. Because you should know, we talked about it over and over in the Webmaster class. Who invented the World Wide Web? All right, so the person who invented it, I'm waiting the chat, is called Tim. Tim what? Tim what? I've gotten two Tims. Tim what? Lee. All right, so all right, so it's called Tim Berners-Lee. Tim Berners-Lee invented the World Wide Web, and he also created the very first website. The very first website. Now, the architecture behind websites is this. We have web browsers communicating with web servers. Now, web browsers are special applications that are designed to read HTML code and other code. Now, we have an address bar where we type an address in. Now, when you type an address in, the address you put there travels to the web, goes to a DNS server to locate which specific server is hosting the website, and it goes to, it sends a request to that particular server. When the request gets to the server, what happens is that the server responds with HTML code. So that code is sent back to the browser, and the browser understands HTML. So what a browser will do is to interpret or pass the HTML code, and it will create a web page for you. So anytime you request for a website, it is HTML content that comes to you. In Python, you can do the same thing. You can have a web browser in Python. With this library called request, you can use it to request from a website, or just type the URL of a website, and it will contact the server and retrieve the HTML code for you. And that HTML code, you can use it. I'm going to talk to you more about it. But then we have a second library, and this second library is for those who love soup. The name of this library is called Beautiful Soup. Please type Beautiful Soup in the chat for me. If you're a soup lover, type Beautiful Soup. I don't know which soup is beautiful. This person really likes soup. And so the person says it is beautiful soup. The soup is not just tasty, spicy, yummy. It is beautiful. Wow. So in Python, we have an interesting library called Beautiful Soup. Ever since I heard of Beautiful Soup, I never forgot about it because the name sounds so interesting. Anytime I think of soup, I remember Beautiful Soup in Python. This is another library that is used in web scraping to pass and extract data from HTML or from XML. You have to install this as well. To install it, type pip install beautiful soup. Let me do that right now. I'm going to do that. So we say pip install beautiful soup. So you look at it and you can see the code over here, and we are installing version 4. So you type beautiful soup 4. You're installing version 4, so you type beautiful soup 4. Then it will do the installation for you. So you can see that I already have beautiful soup because I myself like soup. So it is already satisfied. If you don't have beautiful soup, please install beautiful soup 4, because these are the two libraries that we can use, we need to use to do our web scraping. And in web scraping, you can start at a basic level, and you can also do a whole lot. You can add pandas to it. You can add CSV module to it, and a whole lot. But these are the main libraries we need to scrape the web. And we understand how both of them works very soon. Let's talk about the requests library. The request library. Now, this request library is a Python library that is used to make HTTP requests. What that means is that we use it to request data from a server. When you visit a website, you type http:// then the domain.com. When you hit enter, what goes to the server is an HTTP request. So this is the same as a web browser. So that's why I put here that similar to a web browser, when you enter a URL in your browser, the browser sends a request to the server, and the server responds with a web page content or HTML code. Requests in Python allows you to do the same thing using Python. So this is so powerful, and I'm going to give you an example here. So to use requests in your Python code, you always have to import it. You always have to import it. So let me open to my IDE and we'll start writing some code. So over here, we have a URL here, and I've stored the URL in a variable. So this URL is just the address of the website. You can type any website over there, any address over there. Okay, so I'm storing the URL in a variable called URL. And I'm going to send a GET request to fetch the content of this URL. So what I'll do is that I'm going to create a variable called response, or any variable I want. For example, this URL, I created it. It can be any variable at all. So this response is your own variable that you can create. You can create your own variable called response. But what is important to note here is this request. This request, where does it come from? This request, where does it come from? Who can tell me in the chat? This request, where does it come from? Who can tell me in the chat? We said response equals to request. So it comes from the library. Thank you, Nyampandi. Thank you so much. So what we imported here, that is what we are calling. Now, anytime you have any string or any list or sequence or any module, and you type dot something, what it means is that this is a method. Okay, a method that is within this particular function, okay, or module. So the way you send a request is this. You call the request you imported, then .gets, then you type your URL here. Instead of typing http www.wikipedia or google.com or amazon.com, we just stored it in this URL, and we are putting the URL here. So the only line of code to send an HTTP request is this. It is so simple. After importing request, this is the only code you need to send a GET request. So this code will visit this website and collect all the data from this website, all the HTML code. Then it will store the HTML code in your variable here called response. So the HTML code will be stored here. In Python, you can store a whole web page in a variable. Python is something else. You don't just store a number or a string, you can store a whole web page. So this particular response will have the whole web page. We'll try it in a minute and you see. Then we can choose to print it. To print it, we will say that print our response.text. So if you want to see the text of the response, type .text and it will give you the HTML code. Let's use an IDE to test it. Let me see if I can use PyCharm. So let's type PyCharm here. And it will be nice to use VS Code, or I think Jupyter Lab will be cool. You can use Jupyter to really do this really well. And let this open and I'll see if we can use Jupyter as well. All right. Okay. So this is my Python. Let me close all of these. I have a lot of Python projects. Let me create one here, new Python file, and we'll call this web scraping.py. Don't forget the .py. Enter. All right. So the first line of code, who can tell me the first line of code here? What's the first line of code? The first line of code here is, I can see someone typing. What is the first line of code here in Python? So we type import requests. Awesome. Now, if your request is not working, it means you've not installed it. If you've installed it, just import it. That's all. Then we store the website we want to send a GET request to in this. So you can scrape https www.google.com. If you want to scrape google.com, you can. You just store it here. If you want to scrape Wikipedia, if you want to scrape Amazon, if you want to scrape books to scrape, you put it here. So let's say we want to scrape Google. So the next thing here is to create a variable called response. You can use any variable you want. Then we call our request.what. What did we see in the slides? Request.what? .get. Thank you, Ruben. So we call the .get, request.get, and what are we getting? Our URL. Thank you, Lucretia. That's all. Okay. So this here is sending a GET request to the URL. That's all. Or to the web server of the URL. Then we can just go ahead and print this. Wow. We can say print response.what? Text. All right, so let's print this and see what will happen. I'm going to click on print and we are going to see what will happen. So it will take some time. And what you are seeing here is the HTML code of Google. This is Google code here. Now, this is the same thing that happens to a web server. You can see a lot of text here. This is the same thing that happens to a browser. If you visit google.com, there is a GET request that is sent to Google server, and this code comes to your browser. Then your browser receives this code and renders it into a web page. This is the same code that we have received here. And if you know HTML, you see the head tag is here or the head element is here. So now that we have the data, we can now parse this data and extract the information we need. I think we are even talking about web scraping already. And you can see how simple it is. With this request library, you can fetch the data from the website. Then what is left for you to do is to analyze this data, is to clean it and extract exactly what you are looking for. I'm looking for the title tag. I don't know where it is. There's a lot here. I can search for it, but I'm not going to search. So let me close it and let's visit another website. Let's say wikipedia.org. And let's scrape this website. So with this, you can see clearly that this is different content. Wow. So I can see my title here. You see, I didn't even say I didn't type any of this. So this is proof that it has gone to the web and it has extracted the HTML code. Now, this HTML code, I can do a whole lot with it. I can fetch the data I want. Yeah. I can save it and open it in a browser. I can let Python save it for me. I can do a whole lot, but you can see that I really have Wikipedia here. This is Wikipedia. And this is HTML, okay? This is why it is good to know something about HTML. So now that you have HTML, you can now use Beautiful Soup to do the analysis and the data extraction. So this is why there are two libraries that we need to explore in Python. So the second library is called Beautiful Soup, just like I mentioned to you. Now, what is this Beautiful Soup? When I'm done, I'm going to ask you the two libraries, and I'm going to see which one you will remember. All right. Now, Beautiful Soup is a Python library that helps you parse HTML and XML documents, making it easy to extract specific data and navigate the document's structure. So it processes HTML documents and organizes it. The technical term is to parse it. Yes, so you are getting response 200 means it is successful. Response 200 means it is successful. That's what it means. All right, so what are we talking about? You can see that the HTML code can be a lot. We just saw HTML in PyCharm. Now, to be able to read the HTML and extract the specific data, Beautiful Soup is another library that will organize the data in a way that is easily accessible. So at the bottom here, I've written that while requests, as in the library request, fetches the raw HTML content from websites, Beautiful Soup parses the HTML content into a format you can work with, making it easy to extract specific elements. All right. So Beautiful Soup is like the second library that takes the raw code. So the code that we stored in a variable called response, we need to give it to Beautiful Soup, and Beautiful Soup will arrange it in a way that you can easily target. For example, if I want a title, after I give it to Beautiful Soup will record that this is the title, this is the H1, this is the head, This is the L li element. Okay, all the elements in HTML or that website has, Beautiful Soup will organize them. So if I want to target the title, I can just call soup.title.text and I have it. Let's look at it. So for example, to use Beautiful Soup comes from BS4, like Beautiful Soup 4. So we need to write from BS4 import Beautiful Soup. That is what we are going to do. So we'll go back to PyCharm and we will add Beautiful Soup here. After request, we are even done with it. It's very, very easy. So from BS4, and if you study the lesson on libraries, you know that you can import in different ways. So this means that from BS4, let's import Beautiful Soup. Is that a Beautiful Soup? Okay, like this. All right. So let me type this and show you something. So import Beautiful Soup for, okay. So I am not seeing it being selected. This means there's an issue with the installation. So let's look at it this way. Now this BS4, I'm going to click here to install package Beautiful Soup 4. So in my PyCharm, I can do the installation. You see that I just did it. All right. So sometimes the directory that PyCharm operates from may be different from where the installation was done. So it couldn't see it. Even though I had it, it couldn't see it. But now I've been able to install it. So I just put my mouse over it. I didn't click. This thing appeared and I clicked on install. So I've been able to install Beautiful Soup now. No problem. Now that I have Beautiful Soup, I can create a variable called soup. You can create your own variable, but most people like soup. I don't know if you like soup. If you like soup, type soup in the chat for me. Type soup in the chat. I think everyone has soup in their country. Nigeria, what is your favorite soup? What is your favorite soup in Nigeria? Beef gravy. Hey, is gravy soup? Beef gravy. Nigeria, what's your favorite soup? I know you say pepper soup, Bernardine. Eh? I do not like, oh, Bernardine, you don't like soup. How? Pepper soup. Eh? You see? I knew you are going to say pepper soup. All right. How about Kenya? What is your favorite soup in Kenya? I don't know anything about Kenya soup. Only Nigerian soup that I know. Israel says he doesn't like soup. Oh, really? Okay. Bone? Is it bone soup or bone soup? Bone soup. Okay. So Leon says bone soup. I've never had it in my life. Bone soup. Okay. So Mtura. Hey, which one is that? Mtura. Mtura. Okay. So South Africa, what is your soup in South Africa? Timothy, what is your soup? Ethiopia says what? Fish soup. Oh, wow. Fish soup. I've never had it. Soup made of bones. Hey, Harvest says Mluzu. Mluzo. We don't like soup in South Africa. Really? Oh, Liberia, you have palm butter. Palm butter. What is that? I've never heard it before. Palm butter. Anyway, any stew, beef stew, it needs to have meat. Okay. So South Africa, you need meat in your soup. So made from palm nuts. Oh, okay. So in Ghana, we have palm nut soup, we have light soup, and we have groundnut soup. So in Ghana, I think these are the three soups we have. Yes. Anyway, I've learned a lot from you. All right. So in Python, there's a library called Beautiful Soup. that you use to process the raw HTML. So all that plenty HTML, you need to give it to that beautiful soup. So you create a library, a variable called soup. You can use any name you want. And Captain Conto. Oh yeah, Captain Conto is true. It's true. It's been ages since I tried it. In Captain Conto. Oh yeah. Okay. All right. So we create in category A. We create soup variable. You can create any variable you want. You create any variable you want, but soup is like the convention that every Python developer uses. So in the Python community, everybody uses soup as a variable for this. The same way we import pandas as PD and all that. Everyone uses soup for this. So this particular line of code is important. You create your variable called soup, but you can change it if you want. And then you target this here. So again, I'm going to ask you where this comes from. Where this comes from. So I'm going to highlight this. Where does it come from? Where does this come from? Where does this come from? Where does it come from? From the import, from the library. Okay, good. So from BS4, import this. So if you take the lesson on libraries and modules, you understand why we said from and import like that. All right. Now, once you see something like this with parentheses, it means it's a function. And this function has two arguments, or it has two parameters. One parameter is this. This response.text, where does it come from? Who can remember where this comes from? Where does this come from? Who can remember it? Response.text, where does it come from? Okay, not just the print. We used it in print, but it came from, of course, HTML, but specifically, it came from the response that gets from the request library. Thank you so much. So what we did previously, we can give it to Beautiful Soup. So instead of printing, you can give it to Beautiful Soup, and you can add this argument to it in the request. Thank you, Benedine. This argument is an HTML parser in Python. So you just type it like this as text, and it will be given to this function called Beautiful Soup, and it will do its job for you. So in our code, we can add this particular line. Instead of printing it, we may not have to print it. We can just go ahead and we can say that we will create a Beautiful Soup object by creating this. Okay, so when we do this, we are creating an object. This means Beautiful Soup is a class. And then we will pass the response of text. So passing the HTML content. So we will write this here and say passing the HTML content. And to pass the HTML content, we'll just create soup equals to Beautiful Soup. Beautiful Soup. I wanted it to pick it. Let me type it well. Okay, got it. Beautiful Soup into bracket. Our response dot text, comma. Then we use the HTML.parser here. So once you do this, this is the next line to write. So to script the web, there are two important lines. This is number one, to send a GET request and to pass it. So very soon, I'm going to show you the steps you go through to script the web using Python. Step one will be to send a GET request. Step two will be to pass the HTML content, just like we have done here. This is what the passing means. Then step 3 will be to extract the data. So to extract the data, we can just say soup.title.text. Let's see what this will produce. So we can come here and say soup.title. Sorry, we are printing it, okay? So let's print this and say soup.title.text. So this here means that after the parsing, now the raw HTML code has been converted into HTML elements that can be selected. So with soup, when we select this, let me remove the text and you'll see what will happen here. If you understand HTML little, I'm going to remove the text. Okay, so let's run it and see what will happen. Sorry, I said title, right? So what do you see here? What do you see here? Tell me if you understand HTML a little bit. What do you see here? What do you see here? All right, the title tag. Thank you, Ato, Nyapandi, Lucretia, Louisa. I'm not really talking about Wikipedia. I'm talking about what just happened here. So this is a work of Beautiful Soup. Beautiful Soup can take an HTML code and organize it into HTML elements so that if you need any particular data, by using the HTML element, you can fetch that data. So here, by saying soup.title, we've been able to fetch the title element or the title tag. If I add .text to it, what do you see here? Wikipedia. This time I'm expecting Wikipedia. So what has happened is that it's used the HTML element to target the data or to select the data like CSS does. And then the text gave us the text of that element. Think about this carefully and you understand the work of Beautiful Soup. Request fetched the HTML from the web server. Done. Beautiful Soup parsed the HTML document that it received from request, arranged it or organized it into HTML elements, and you can select any element you wish to see. Let's select the p tags. There are a lot of p tags here. Let's see how that will show. So let's go here and say print soup.p.text. Let me just do .p alone and see. The p tag is a paragraph tag. And so from this web page, it found this paragraph tag. All right, let me fetch the .text and let's see. And when I say .text, I got this. All right, so Louisa says, can we use the request library to clone an entire website or an app? All right, so what the request library does is to contact the web server and request for the HTML content. Now, if a web page is purely static and has only HTML code, then you can clone it, as it were. But then after cloning it, some HTML code, because of how they were created, some were created in frameworks or some were created in a certain directories, and how they access their images, they just access their images like /images or images /logo.png. All right, so if you download that, you may not have a directory called images, so you will not see the images. But then if you want the images, you can add the domain name to it again, and it will access the image right from the domain level, if you understand what I mean. If you write an HTML code and you have an image, You see, during the HTML coding, you can just say images slash, even your CSS, you can say CSS slash styles.css. And it will work because you are building it, you have all those directories and all those files. But if you fetch this, only the HTML, what is going to happen is that you don't have that directory that has the images. So when you use Python to store it, again, like I mentioned, we can tell Python that after fetching the HTML, save it for us. Python can save it for us. Then it can save it as HTML and we can open it in a browser and you see how the browser will render it. But then, like I said, if the links are not all absolute, you need to add the domain names before the CSS will load and the images will also load. But yes, you can get the entire HTML code. All right. So let's see the H1 over here. Let me put that one here. So we say print soup.h1.text and the heading one from Wikipedia. Let's see what it will say. It says a free encyclopedia, the free encyclopedia. That's fine. So this is what we got from this. This is what we got from this. And by learning Beautiful Soup and learning requests, you have gotten the basics of web scraping with Python. The next thing is to understand how this works and to try more examples with Beautiful Soup, because Beautiful Soup is not just soup.title. Of course, if you know HTML, I'm sure you understand everything right now, and you are even thinking of what else I can call. I can say soup.head. I can say soup.ul. I can say soup.table. I can say soup.anything. If you understand HTML, you understand it. But then you need to explore Beautiful Soup more, and there's a lot to learn. So in the next class, we will delve into Beautiful Soup, explore it well, and be able to pull out a lot of data from a lot of websites. So this books to script website. Today, what I'll do is that I'm going to give you an exercise to scrape specific data of books and store it as CSV. And in that CSV, we will have the books, their titles, their prices, and a whole lot. Yes. But then these are the steps. Number one, you make an HTTP request with requests library. You pass the HTML content, you extract the data, and you store the data. Most of the time, we store the data. All right. So our project here is to scrape the books to scrape website. And to do that, I'm going to give it to you as an assignment because I have put together the entire process. So I want you to try it. And then when you finish, send screenshots of your work to assignments@ritaafrica.org. This time, assignments is no longer .com, it is .org, ritaafrica.org. That is where you send assignments to. But then next week, I'd like you to show me the data you were able to scrape from books to script, and then I'll take you to a whole new level. This particular lesson has given you the basics of web scraping, and in the next class, you will get into an advanced level. So what I'm going to do next is to share the link in the chat to the project, a simple exercise, and you have 1 week to work on it. The earlier you do it, the better, so that the knowledge becomes fresh in your mind. Send your work to assignments@ritaafrica.org. And if someone has heard me, please put it in the chat for me, assignments@ritaafrica.org. So before we end this class, I want to ask a simple question, whether you've learned something new today. Have you learned anything new today? Anything at all? Anything at all? Have you learned anything new today? Anything at all? All right, so Israel is the only one who learned something today. That is how it is when a tree is growing. You don't see it growing, but after a while, you see that it has become a mighty tree. That is how you are when you are studying. It is little by little, step by step. But if you don't give up and you continue, sometimes when I'm saying this, I feel like I don't know how I should pour my heart out to tell you to take your studies seriously and to learn and to be determined. If you do that, you are going to be successful. All right. So thank you all for joining. I'm going to see you next week for another live session. I wish you all the best. Enjoy your week and we'll meet again. All the best. Bye bye.